Level 1. The kid who broke things on purpose. You are 12 years old, finding a way to make your school's library computer display a message it was never supposed to show. Not out of malice, but because you needed to know if it was actually possible. Spending your lunch period testing the same input 11 different ways in a row until, quietly, on the 12th attempt, it finally works. Your parents get a call from the school that manages to be both a warning and, from the IT teacher's tone, weirdly complimentary at the same time, the teacher quietly asking afterward exactly how you'd pulled it off. You start reading about how systems get broken instead of just breaking them, discovering an entire online community of people who think exactly the way you do about locked doors, that the interesting question is never whether they're locked, but how. You set up your first home lab on an old laptop your uncle gave up on, intentionally installing broken software just to practice finding the cracks in it, staying up far later than you should on school nights, chasing one specific exploit that finally clicks at 2 a.m., level 2. The one who reads the documentation. Nobody else reads. You are 19, studying computer science with a growing, specific obsession with the models everyone else in your program treats as black boxes, reading research papers on machine learning vulnerabilities that half your classmates don't know exist yet. You spend an entire semester break teaching yourself how to craft adversarial examples, tiny invisible pixel changes that make an image classifier confidently call a picture of a cat, a picture of a toaster, a trick so simple it unsettles you more than anything else you've learned that semester. You submit your first vulnerability report to a company running a public AI model, a prompt injection technique that lets you extract information the system was explicitly designed to protect. They fix it within a week and send you a genuinely grateful email that you screenshot immediately, the first time anyone outside your small online community has taken your strange hobby seriously, a feeling you spend the rest of the semester quietly chasing again. Level 3. The Red Teamer. You are 24, hired onto a red team specifically built to attack AI systems before real-world actual attackers ever get the chance to, spending your first month learning that breaking a language model is nothing like breaking traditional software. The vulnerabilities are subtly conversational, deeply contextual, sometimes almost psychological rather than purely technical. Your first major find is a jailbreak technique that takes you 3 weeks of failed attempts, each one slightly closer until a specific framing finally works at 1 a.m. on a Thursday. You present the finding to the model's actual engineering team the next morning, watching their faces shift from mild skepticism to visible alarm as you walk them through it live. A room that goes noticeably quieter with every step of the demonstration. The patch ships within 72 hours. Nobody outside the company ever learns the vulnerability existed at all, which is, you're starting to understand exactly the point of the job, invisible protection nobody will ever know to thank you for. Level 4. The one who writes the threat models. You are 30, leading red team engagements now instead of just running them, responsible for anticipating attack categories that don't exist yet based on architectural changes still in development. You develop a specific instinct for where a new capability will create a new risk before the capability itself is even fully built, flagging concerns that engineering teams initially dismiss and later, uncomfortably often, come back to seriously. Your team finds a systemic issue during a pre-launch evaluation that would have let a coordinated group extract dangerous technical information through a series of individually harmless-looking questions, no single one of which would trigger a safety filter alone, a pattern your team only spots by mapping dozens of seemingly unrelated conversations against each other. The launch gets delayed 6 weeks specifically because of your team's finding, an unpopular delay in the moment that nobody internally disputes was correct in hindsight, a vindication that arrives quietly without anyone ever quite admitting it out loud. Level 5. The head of AI safety operations. You are 38, running safety and security operations for an entire AI lab now, responsible for the systems, policies, and people standing between powerful models and the specific ways they could be misused at scale. Your days become almost entirely about trade-offs. Nobody teaches you how to weigh cleanly, capability versus caution, speed versus certainty. A launch date the whole company is counting on against a risk you can't fully quantify yet, decisions that used to feel binary now living permanently in uncomfortable gray areas. A significant vulnerability surfaces 48 hours before a major public launch, and you make the call to delay publicly, absorbing enormous internal and external pressure for a decision you know is correct, but can't fully explain without revealing exactly what you're protecting against. A silence that costs you politically in ways nobody outside the room will ever fully see. The delay holds unfolds, the story never breaks publicly. You walk the office once a month specifically to sit with new red teamers, remembering exactly what it felt like finding your first real vulnerability at 1 a.m., a feeling you're still quietly chasing every time a new report lands on your desk. Level 6, the one government's call. First, you are 51, advising governments and international bodies on AI security policy now. Your name attached to frameworks that shape how entire industries think about risk. Documents you draft in language plain enough for legislators who've never written a line of code, spending more time in policy hearings than in front of a terminal these days. You've watched the field evolve from a strange hobby nobody took seriously into a discipline entire countries build institutions around. Though the fundamental instinct, the interesting question is never whether the door is locked, but how, somehow never stops applying. You visit a university hackathon on a Saturday and find a 19-year-old explaining an adversarial technique to a skeptical crowd with a specific fire in her voice you recognize immediately. You ask her afterward what got her into this. She says she just needed to know if something was actually possible. You tell her, honestly, that's the whole job, and that it doesn't get more complicated than that. It just gets bigger, and the door, whatever door it happens to be that week, is always worth checking twice.